A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
It's a bright Friday morning. Welcome to the show. I'm Ayo Makinde.
And we kick off with our breaking news coming through from the United States of America, where President of the United States, Donald Trump, and his wife, Melania Trump, have tested positive to COVID-19. The president did put up a message confirming that, and that they will begin their quarantine process immediately in the White House. And as a matter of fact, his physician, said that's Navy Commander Dr. Sean Conley, wrote that he received that confirmation of the positive tests on Thursday evening. And the president and the First Lady, in the message they put up to the White House, are well, and this time they say they plan to remain at home in the White House during this recovery process. And as you may have seen on the ticker, the president was in the final stretch of his re-election campaign, and they will now begin this quarantine process immediately.
Well, it's something that he put up about an hour ago or thereabout on his Twitter handle, and that is right there. Tonight, Flotus and I tested positive. Flotus is First Lady of the United States, tested positive of COVID-19. We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We'll get through this together. And of course, that's...
Well, you don't forget, the president has said that they plan to quarantine after one of his close aides had tested positive to this. But now you have this one, and who knows how this will eventually play out. So definitely there'll be more news for you as we get them.
And of course, we also have these messages that we have...
Yeah, but moving on to this one. Yesterday, we did put out a poll asking you a question, and that you should go ahead and vote in terms of what you wanted to see having, commemorating our 60th. So we did ask that question, and that is how you all voted on the day. Well, first of all, look at the amount of people who participated in that particular poll. Quite impressive, as a matter of fact, when you see that over 10,000 people participated in that poll. As Nigeria celebrates her Diamond Jubilee, what policy would you want to see adopted, we did ask? And there were 4 options: single-term presidency, allow a referendum, expunge state of origin, and then allow Nigerians abroad to vote. And look at that. 52% says they want that policy, or they want that clause, whichever way you want to describe it, that they allow a referendum, albeit in the laws of this country.
In a way, if that were to be allowed, it seems that people have a consensus that all other things on that list are going to be taken care of.
Yeah, because that is very key. So if you allow a referendum, they could vote on anything.
In a way, the president seems to have voted for allowing referendum as well in his speech yesterday, where he said, look, let's hand over power to the people. And there is no easier way to allow the people to have their say than a referendum. Now the government has seen this, the next thing is to move from what Professor Jega said yesterday about, okay, so we have it in the books. How do we practicalize it? Also lines up with what Mr. Babatunde Fashola SAN said at the platform yesterday, that between policy and result, there is a gap. So this one is like between what is written and what is done. There is a gap. So let's go. I think we need to bridge that gap now.
That will be very interesting to see what happens. I don't know, maybe we'll hold your breath. I mean, you sound so definitive that it will be the next thing to do.
But we are already talking about the constitutional review, bro. Come on.
Did they mention that part as part of any of those items that they listed?
Well, if they're going to line up what they want to do with the constitutional review with what the president said,
yeah,
I'm wondering how we're going to hand over power to the people without allowing a referendum.
Okay, well, people didn't stop at just voting on the poll. There were equally some comments. It was quite interesting. It was engaging as well. They just kept on talking. So let's take a look at one or two of those messages that people put out. Which ones do you have now?
Well, the first one here is by Sultanisa. It says, capping order for people in Maitama, Socorro, the most exploited are... No. This is not the one. But let me go back to that very one that we are talking about here right now. Of course, 211 messages under that poll. And this guy, Udofia, says, none of the mentioned policies will impact positively on Nigeria. They are trivial and should not be wasted time on. Wow. Well, and of course, naturally, we also tell you, it'll be nice to at least have your view. You have your say. Let's move on from
Okay,
there.
look at that one from Olugbenga says, if this flag truly depicts our current reality as a nation, no gainsaying there is need for an overhaul of the polity. No more rhetorics.
Exactly. And this one also by Danny says, being hopeful and no actions, no reforms, no restructuring, well, keep on being hopeful and the country will still be like this.
Well, Professor Naina says, look, agriculture remains our hope of economic development. If 10% of our population is supported to invest in farming, Nigeria will witness economic prosperity. Netherlands, with size of Lagos, produces oil and gas, yet they invested in agriculture, aggregating, he says, some $90 billion annually.
From Michael, as long as a section or region of the country wants to keep deciding the fate or leadership of the country, we won't make progress. A parliamentary system of government where every region will have equal representation and the president or prime minister is chosen among them should be the way to go. This is what we had in the First Republic, and this is where we are.
Well, look at this one from Shola, who says, look, minimum wage in Saudi Arabia is 300. Okay, you got the next one.
No, well, there's something else. It's a different poll.
Oh, all right.
Yes, the Channels Television put out a poll as well.
Okay.
This one that we just talked about is from Sunrise Daily, but Channels Television also did put out this poll about which of these sectors has performed better over the years. That also has quite a number of responses, and guess what? We had about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or thereabout items on that list. As you can see on the screen, if you can, agriculture, economy, humanitarian affairs, power, security, transportation, works and housing, education. There is one. None performed well, had 71.32 votes.
Whoa.
Beg your pardon, 71.32% of the votes. So, again, it ties to, of course, agriculture came next with 12.08%, and transportation came next with 7.17%. But what this says, and 71.32% to none performed well means only one thing: the quantum of confidence that people have in that process. And I think this really does speak a lot, to us as a people. When, a number of things happen and, government, is doing stuff. And I think we have often talked about this, Chamberlain. And that's the fact that while on one side we have a situation where, government is doing some things and we're not finding a way to connect it with the people, there is that understanding or a lack of it. And this is what it is. And of course, you can check it out on your own Twitter handle. Just search for Channels Television. The poll result is right there.
All right, so let's get on then and take a look at how are the dailies reflecting what is with the 60th this time. Let's start with Vanguard newspaper. 60th anniversary broadcast. That's how they lead here today. Hard knocks for Buhari over defense of fuel price hike. So that's the one you see right there. As President says, it will make no sense for oil to be cheaper in Nigeria than in Saudi Arabia. You knew they were going to jump on that. And you also saw one tweet on that already.
Yes, that tweet that said, when the president mentioned the fact that Saudi Arabia, the fuel is sold at 350 naira per liter, the person responded by saying minimum wage in Saudi Arabia is about 305,000 naira. You know, so I mean, that comparison is insufficient, so to speak.
Look at some of the other writers. It's a slap on Nigerians, PDP, mere sound and fury, SMBLF. Only in Nigeria, a president justifies inflicting pains, hardship on citizens, from JAF. No basis comparing Nigeria with Saudi Arabia. Others ascribe to TUC. Speech hollow, empty, disappointing, Ohaneze. Comparison sad, unfortunate, NLC. Ex-presidents who nearly destroyed Nigeria criticize us shamelessly, Buhari. So that's what you find right there, and that's the lead story at the moment. So, okay, you also see several others. COVID-19, Lagos records 81 new infections as confirmed cases rise to 59,001. That's what you see here today. So, you got, of course, several other stories right there. But if you take a look at what is on the back page, Vanguard Sports today, well, Man United in Champions League group of death. Okay. Let's see. Can you see any of that here? Well, look at the riders. Chelsea, Liverpool, City get easy run. Whoa. Atalanta, Ajax. Are they that easy for Liverpool? And Chelsea will also be... Well, Ronaldo, Messi collide. That's what you see right there. So, wow. What an interesting one it will be. So, there you go. That's Vanguard today.
The Nigerian Tribune also has a similar headline as the Vanguard newspaper. Adebanjo, Yakasai, TUC, PDP, CAN, SMBLF. Others knock Buhari. That's the lead of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. As president says, it makes no sense for oil to be cheaper in Nigeria than Saudi Arabia. You find other headlines, other sub-headlines. President sincere, spoke his mind, according to Unongo, others. Not too late for Nigeria to be giant of Africa. That's according to Akinyemi. I disagree with a bleak view of our history, according to the vice president. That picture is on pages 2 and 5. That story, beg your pardon, you will find on pages 2 and 5 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And of course, right above the nameplate is the Nigeria at 60 interview series 4. That's you will also find on pages 15 to 22. Has Mr. Falana and a number of other people right there on the front page. Under the pictures on the front page, Buhari blames OBJ Yaradua Jonathan for, quote, presiding over near destruction of Nigeria, unquote. Find that story on page 2. Says contrived fault lines cause Nigeria's woes. Of course, there are disagreements about this one also. An example is that of the former chairman of INEC, who said he does not agree that the fault lines are contrived. That's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. On the back page, ex-Germany under-20 captain Akpoguma confirms Nigeria switch. Find the details of that on the inside pages of the paper this morning. That's the Nigerian Tribune today.
Okay, look at Daily Trust then. Mixed reactions trail Buhari's independence speech. Glamour in Abuja, anger in states. Stop making mockery of Nigerians, PDP, NLC. President writes for telling the truth. He should not increase petrol price anymore. That's a quote from somewhere. You might want to go ahead and see that. Governors call for peaceful coexistence. That you also see right there. So there you go. That is Daily Trust this morning.
The Guardian newspaper leads with October 1 protests hit Abuja, southern states. Wow, what is that about indeed? It had a number of riders, 40 protesters, 11 40 protesters arrested, 11 released in Lagos, Osun. Activists march in Oyo, Ondo, Lagos, Osun, Rivers, others. IPOB sit-at-home order partial success in Southeast and Rivers. Gowan, Jonathan, others join Buhari to mark anniversary. Serap flays attacks on journalists and peaceful protesters. That story is on the front page. A major story actually on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and a number of other stories under it. How Graft visionless leadership impede nation's greatness. That's a comment that you'll find on page 3. PDP, Southern Middle Belt leaders, orders fault Buhari's independent speech. The story is on page 4. COVID-19 kills 17,000 senior citizens in Africa, according to the World Health Organization. And Panorama, page 2, has a number of artists celebrating Nigeria with awe-inspiring national anthem rendition. That's the Guardian today.
Wow. News Directs. Protesters storm Abuja, Lagos, Benin, Osogbo, others demand reversal of harsh policies. Police arrest 30 protesters, detain inspector for assaulting journalists. So there you go. Journalists are carrying out their constitutional role, and so there's absolutely no reason why they should be assaulted in the line of duty. And then you have several other stories here. It makes no sense for oil to be cheaper in Nigeria than Saudi Arabia. Buhari, PDP, others fume. So that is what you find on the front page of News Direct.
And if you have a look at the Leadership newspaper, you find this one. It is Nigeria at 60, eminent citizens, others chart way forward. The story is on page 4. I disagree with a bleak view of our history. That's according to the Vice President. We'll work for a better country. Governors promise there. And proponents of regionalism are selfish. That's according to Sanusi, the former emir of Kano. And law reforms to reflect dynamism, nation's status, according to Malami. Ohaneze, youths seek redress of imbalances, and NLC calls for adjustments. Well, all of that are elements of the same story you'll find on page 4 of the Leadership newspaper this morning. And you find those pictures there of the president, former vice president, and some of our representatives at the head of government, right there on the front page. PMB rallies Nigerians, says national healing process imperative. That story is on page 4. Beg your pardon, page 8. It's amazing that no one has really referenced that national healing process that the president talked about in that speech. Right?
You mean some of the dailies today?
Yeah, except this one. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper. I can recover $10 billion stolen pension fund in 30 days, according to Maina. Page 36 of the paper has that one. How FG Labour...
It doesn't mean his court case will drop, though. They still have a case against him in court.
Well, where is he going to get the money from?
It's up to him, but the cases in court will keep going. Maybe he said this in the process. Who knows?
Okay, this one also on page 31, 75 billion naira survival fund. FG opens registration portal for 333,000 artisans and others. Wow, find that on page 31 of the Leadership newspaper today.
Well, look at Daily Times next. Knocks for President Buhari on Independence Day speech. That's the big one on the front page of Daily Times here today. Demonstrations, protests mar Independence Day anniversary in Lagos. And then you have Independence anniversary. Buhari presides over low-key 60th anniversary at Eagle Square. And then fight against corruption. United States lauds Nigerians over commitment to tackling grafts. Others. That's what you find right there on the front page. And then, of course, they do have an editorial, Nigeria at 60. I think it is the second part of that. So that is the Daily Times which wraps up a look at some of the dailies here today.
Yeah, but before we take our first break, let's look at some of the messages that came with the poll, the Sunrise Daily poll that we announced earlier. Well, this one from Lanre Oluwajobi says, single term won't work. Nigerians in diaspora usually don't know the state of things. In fact, they were part of the ones shouting Buhari for second term. I don't know why you had to put that in. Referendum will, well, referendum will work if we can follow it. And then there's this other one that I find interesting by Nicholas C.I. It says, restructure, devolution of powers, equitable representation of states within the region, scrap the HOR and keep the Senate. Scrap the HOR means House of Representatives, and keep the Senate. Equal opportunities for all irrespective of regions. Expunge nepotism, favoritism, and outright exclusion from things like recruitment into federal agencies. This is like his own referendum.
Wow. What about Abba? He thinks, look, I think the biggest and most important thing at this moment is to allow referendum in our constitution. People must be given the power to make changes. They're pretty strong on that.
Yeah. Well, the one by Chimo Obinwe took that one yesterday. But the one next is Ferami Faith Folahan says, constitutional amendment. That's the number one problem in Nigeria. Others can then follow.
Do we have this from Lukman? Lukman also sent a particular one. He says, the roots of our problem is lack of consensus among people of different cultures coming together on the same roof. The way forward is referendum. Okay, we don't seem to have it. So there you go. That is what we're, at least at this point in time. So we will be back in a moment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, keeping our focus on the speech and some of the policies and the reactions that people have got. We've got Laulu Akonde, who is the Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity to the Vice President. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, already there are reactions to this speech as it has to do with the economy, how things are faring at the moment, where we are, where they think we should be headed. And those assessments, well, they're not exactly thumbing up the performance of this administration. In light of those comments and perhaps the policies that government is putting in place, how do you relate with the comments that people have at the moment?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain, and my other colleagues for having me. Of course, you know, it's we live in a democracy, and we are quite willing to have people look at what it is that the president is doing critically, and you know, when we get useful feedback, it becomes something that we can also plowing back into policy and even in the way that we implement whatever programs it is that we are pushing. But I think the more important thing is that you have the president stating it clearly that he is committed, and he has shown over the past 5 years he's committed to the rule of law, to democracy. He wants to ensure that he leaves clearly a legacy of free and fair, credible, transparent elections. He wants the voters to be the ones to determine election in the real sense. And he has shown clear commitment to that. In the area of taking care of the interests of the people, the president has also shown that even at a time when the coffers of the nation is under tremendous pressure because of the decline and some of the global economic aftermath of COVID-19, that we are still spending a very significant amount of the resources left for the average Nigerian, whether it be in what we are doing with MSMEs, or even in the continuation of some of the social investment programs, or in fact, even in the pace that we are gathering in the area of infrastructural rehabilitation, I will say. So very clearly, this is a president that is committed to doing things better, improving on our scorecard, and taking Nigeria to that place of greatness that we all desire.
Well, you know, about the part where he talked about wanting the people to be in charge in terms of power, people being able to determine how the ones with the electioneering process. But there are many who can't quite place it because the Electoral Act that was amended last time out, the 8th Assembly, was submitted to the President over 3 times, all were declined. Yes, he may have given his reasons, but now people would have thought that, look, that could have been or should have been the first thing that the government would have done in a way of, in a manner, hitting the ground running, so to speak. But as we speak, they still wonder. There seems to be a lot of foot dragging about ensuring that the Electoral Act is passed, sending people that message that we really want to have this done.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that is stopping the promoters of this act and the people who have the active responsibility in the National Assembly. There's nothing stopping them from reworking whatever the details of the act and presenting it for assent of Mr. President. You know, I have no doubt in my mind that the president will do whatever it is that is in the best interest of the Nigerian electorate. I think he has demonstrated it over and over again that he is not going to use his position as the president or the fact that he is the head of the ruling party to influence the outcome of elections. Each time he gives very firm instructions to the heads of the security agencies and everybody that involved, that what is important to him and what is important for Nigeria is for the people to be able to determine who their leaders are. So clearly, if the promoters of the Electoral Act and if the National Assembly people responsible for it, you know, if they put together, you know, an amendment, you know, that meets the aspirations of Nigerians, you know, there's no doubt at all that the president will take another look at it.
Well, before now, you also are aware that there have been serious criticism, backlash, if you like, of that comment where the president said that the fault lines are contrived and consequently shouldn't be given that much regard. And a number of people have come out to say, indeed, there are fault lines. And of course, the newspapers this morning is replete with comments from various people, including the INEC chairman who spoke yesterday on our program, that the fault lines are not contrived, that they are real. So in that regard, of course, the president said they are contrived. Now, that is some kind of feedback. What should we be doing to get people and the president on the same page about these fault lines?
Thank you very much. And of course, you know, you wouldn't leave out the part where the president also called very clearly for a process of sincere national healing to begin. And according to the president, we see this 68th anniversary as an opportunity for us as Nigerians to come together to address whatever may be the underlying critical situation and challenges that we deal with. The president has never been one to deny, you know, some of these challenges. You know, whether we call it fault lines, whether we call it, you know, the challenges of diversity. He has always said, look, I mean, we have to ensure that the people, the voice of the people is heard, and we have to ensure that we together, coming together, regardless of religion, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of the region we come from, to address whatever these problems are. And we as a government, led by the president, we are willing and able and ready to take the lead in the process of national healing that the president himself spoke very clearly about yesterday. So yes, we take the feedback, but the president already said in his speech that he is ready and that all Nigerians should be ready for a sincere process of national healing.
Well, in that, still in that light, part of the speech, at some point, he also did talk about how we needed to increase our commitment to peaceful coexistence in a peaceful, secure, and united Nigeria. But there are those who think that this may come across to them as lip service, because in the first instance, you have different regions who are coming up with their own security outfits. Yes, they've talked about community policing, but many still don't subscribe to it. They think that is not going to address the challenge that they face. In fact, many keep asking time and again that how many people have been arrested for having killed or as a result of the killings going on in different parts of the country. So they think that they need to put their money where their mouth is.
Clearly, and I agree with you. Now, one of the things that we should tell ourselves more about is that this is a federal government. While it is true that there are issues even in the area of security and even in the area of law enforcement, we need to understand that there are different tiers of government that has the responsibility for different duties. So, for instance, if there is a need, for somebody to be prosecuted and taken to court, most of the times, if it happened on local soil in the state, the local government and the state government have tremendous responsibility. The attorney generals in the state have tremendous responsibility to pursue prosecution. The police has the responsibility to conduct investigation, but it will take the state government in most of these cases to pursue the prosecution. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it is a collaborative effort between the federal government and the state and local government to get these things done. A lot of the time, all of us are focused on the center. But our constitution is clear. The center has its own responsibilities, but it is important in our national dialogue, as a nation, to also, apply the pressure to places outside of the federal government that do have responsibilities for law enforcement and who clearly can do a better job. Now, as for the federal government, we are going forward with the idea of community policing because we believe that if we are able to engage the community more and more in policing, that is, putting the boots on the ground, where they are based, where they understand the language, where they understand the terrain, we have no doubt in our minds that will improve policing by itself. And of course, you are aware that the president, recently released about 13 billion for the commencement of community policing. So it is a responsibility that is shared. So let's make this truly a national dialogue and point out to different arms of government and different tiers of government what their responsibilities are.
Well, you just said now, very quickly, before I take the real feedback, the real backup that I want to get to the question. You just said now that the president has released 13 billion naira. What we heard was that there was an announcement that it's been budgeted. Has it been released indeed?
You remember that I believe it was the last National Economic Council meeting. There was we did make a statement that money has been released. The finance minister made that statement that money has been released for the implementation of community policing, and then the council decided, that the finance minister, the inspector general of police, and a number of governors should meet and decide what is the best way to go ahead and spend the money. I mean, what are the best models and strategies to make sure that the money does exactly what it is meant for? So yes, the money has been approved and released.
All right. Well, but then there was something also you said that there is a need for us, for the federating units to play their role in our federal government. It ties to the question that a number of people have raised about the fact that there are 68 items on the exclusive list and just 12 on the concurrent, where governors themselves, as well as the federal government, can have equal powers. But the 68 include all apparatus of security. As you know, we all know, all crime is local. All solutions should be local. So if the states themselves do not have complete authority over their own security apparatus, how then we would be able to do some of these things that you are saying about them championing the security of their environment? And essentially, what then should we be doing? Aren't you also suggesting that maybe it's in line with what people are saying, that it's time for us to have state police?
Now, Ayo, I mean, that's a very good question. Now, but if you look at, what we have currently, why we're not saying there isn't a need for a review, but if you look at what we have currently, the states have sufficient responsibility and authority for law enforcement. I'm talking about prosecution specifically. It is in many cases the responsibility of the state attorneys general to prosecute. You see, the power of prosecution is not necessarily federal. As a matter of fact, in many instances, it is the state that has the responsibility to prosecute. The federal government controls quite a bit of the security architecture, that is true, but what that does is that there is investigation, and then the case is transferred to the Attorney General's office, particularly the Director of Prosecution. And so states already have all they need to go ahead and do the prosecution. And then when we move to the area of what happens in the court, that is the judiciary. It is up to the judiciary to make pronouncements as to guilty verdict or not guilty verdict, as to conviction and as to sentence. That's the judiciary. So the point I'm making here is that we need to speak to all these different tiers of government. We need to speak to different sectors in the society who have different roles to play. I concede the point that in the area of security, as the structure is, the federal government has a huge role to play. But that is limited to investigation of a crime. The prosecution of a crime and getting the case to conviction is in the hands of the states through the Attorney General and in the hand of the judiciary. This is the point I'm making. So that as we are talking about this thing, let us begin to direct our attention to the appropriate quarters.
Could you tell us, the economy is huge at any point in time. There's been several plans and programs of government, including the ASP. Now, yes, they say the government wants to lift 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years. Now, people want to know how or what plan exists to see how businesses, SMEs, private sector-owned businesses can indeed be impacted, because many, as we speak, still don't feel any impact of any plan from the government.
Chamberlain, I'm going to challenge that. There are several people that are feeling some of the things that we are doing in the area of the economy. And one of the approaches that Mr. President has adopted, and for which, talking about the economy, he has given, tremendous responsibility to his deputy, the Vice President, is how to, take this issue from the bottom up. And so you will see, and the President also spoke about this yesterday, you will see how much we have been able to do in the area of trader money. Trader money today in this country, Chamberlain, there are at least 2 million petty traders who have benefited from collateral-free, interest-free loans. Most of them 5,000, some of them 10,000, and a few even got up to the point of 15, because as you return the 5, you get a 10. So as we are sitting here, my brothers, there are 2 million Nigerians, 2 million Nigerians who have benefited from this. There are almost about 1 million Nigerians who have benefited from farmer money, and another 800,000 who have benefited from the Anchor Borrowers Program, that the CBN has been leading as we speak right now. There are 500,000 otherwise unemployed university, colleges of education, and polytechnic graduates who were just sitting at home. Today, their stories have changed. There are at least 1 million Nigerians who have benefited from the conditional cash transfer. And all of these points that I'm making, they can be easily cross-checked. So the point I'm making is that, yes, it's a country of 200 million people. So we have to do a lot more. But like the president said yesterday, the truth of the matter, the fact that cannot be gainsaid, is that some of these things have never happened in Nigeria.
Okay, well,
even when the governments had much more money.
If you don't mind me butting in, just one moment. These facts that you are reeling out are valid as far as you or your office are concerned, because many people do not feel it. For instance, Channel Television put out a poll, and we had 7 items on the list. And it includes agriculture, transportation, housing, works and housing, humanitarian affairs, economy, security, power, energy, and all of that. Guess what? 71.32% of all who voted none performed well. The economy we are talking about comes 7th on that list. 1.13% of the people who voted said the economy and the finance in those 2 sectors were doing very well. So there seems to be a distance, a gap between what the government is doing and how the people are feeling it. How do we connect that?
Well, of course, again, if you go back to the president's speech, he made it very clear. This is a time when there is indeed a global recession, especially because of the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when we get the feedback that quite a lot of people don't feel the impact, you can understand. And I was making a point that, look, it's a country of 200 million people, okay? I mean, that's a huge number. But that doesn't mean that there is no impact. And that doesn't mean that there wouldn't even be a greater impact. So that is why, for instance, the president asked the vice president to lead this effort with the economic sustainability plan. And the president said, you know what, you guys go and design a program that will sustain our economy, especially because of COVID-19. And what did the vice president and his team return with? They return with a plan that says, look, we have to put money in the hands of people. And so we came up with an unprecedented agenda, a plan that says we are going to infuse 2.3 trillion naira into this economy between now and next year, within a year. And that process has started already. The central bank alone has spent, I'm sure, about 500 billion in terms of giving loans, without asking for guarantors to MSMEs, to households, to different sectors in health, and we also have, clearly about 500 billion naira taken out of the budget to ensure that some of the areas of this plan go forward. Let me give you some of the ideas. So we have the MSMEs Survivor Fund that has started. So we already have hundreds of thousands of Nigerians that have applied. So it includes payroll support. We are going to be giving 3 months to companies, businesses, including private schools, hotel, tourism industry, people who lost income during the shutdown that followed the pandemic. Government is going to be paying the salaries of their staff, up to a point for 3 months, under the payroll support. These programs have started. Okay.
Let me add this. Let me just ask you, Lalo, as we wind down this one. In addition to this plan as well, many think that, look, in order to also keep the economy afloat and sustain the economy, as this plan is going to outline to do, we need to plug leakages. Now, with the removal of the fuel subsidy, many will expect that the PPPRA will constitute a drain, and something should happen to that. As a matter of fact, if you look at the refineries, for instance, I don't think they've posted any revenue for over 10, almost 15 years. In fact, some of the figures we stumbled across, we actually found when looking through, indicated that that's the refineries now, they have a combined loss of 154 billion and 149.2 billion in 2018 and 2019 in that order. Now, if you look at our revenue to debt service ratio, that's over 66%. So with all of these leakages, you may just trying to sort one challenge out, but if you don't address these leakages, where does that leave us?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Very good observation. Indeed, there are leakages, and I can tell you that there are ongoing diligent efforts to address the leakages. Whether it's in the area of revenues, whether it's in the area of expenditure. For instance, don't forget that I believe that we have discovered probably running into hundreds of thousands of ghost workers that were on the payroll, the federal payroll, that have been removed, saving the government billions of naira on a monthly basis. We have the TSA, which ensures that, the people in charge of the country, the president, the vice president, the ministers, and everybody generally, you can see how much money is coming in, at every given time, so that it's not possible for somebody to go and hide money somewhere like it used to be. The finance minister just announced, after FEC last week, that the finance ministry is going to be taking more interest and oversight even in the activities of the of agencies that generate revenue. They're going to be playing a more active role, right, just so we are sure that money is coming in and not just going for purposes that are essentially don't serve the national interest, so that a lot of these monies will now be coming into the national coffers. A lot of things that we are doing to ensure that many of those leakages are leaked, because indeed you are correct. We have to leak those leakages, so we have to block those leakages in order for us to be able to get the resources that we want and put in the hands of Nigerians. Like, for instance, we are planning to put solar panels in 5 million homes, and we are targeting homes that don't even have access to the national grid. What do I mean by that? All right, Lalu. Homes that has no connection to electric power. We are planning to put solar panels in 5 million of such homes, and we're going to impact 25 million. All right, we need to anchor at that point, actually. They're going to be having light from solar.
Okay, well, we need to anchor at that point. Lalu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Thank you for your thoughts this morning.
Thank you so much.
So, all right, then. Well, we'll equally just cross over to Mr. Kachi Ononuju in a moment. He is on standby to give his perspectives. Mr. Ononuju, having heard some of these submissions, how do you place them?
Thank you very much. Good morning. First, I will tell you this is the first time in my life that we've had an independence, and I'm not happy. I see several of our countrymen protesting, agitating for separatism. It's never been this bad before. You can see that the gentleman was trying to do the same thing the government had always done before, try to use rhetorics, bandit rhetoric to deceive people. Nigerians exhibited their sadness yesterday based on what they have seen. Now, you have seen the robust application of ethnic cleansing across all federal parastatals. You saw the announcement from the customs, which sought to clean certain ethnicities. You saw the announcement from the president in regards to filling the the Supreme Court. You saw how the Southeast were cleansed out of it. This program of ethnic cleansing has been ongoing. Nigerians are being cleansed from government institutions, from parastatals, in government, and also physically, people who are cleansed of ancestral lands are being kept in IDP camps.
All right, Mr. Ononuju.
Just move.
We'll come back to you when we return in just a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Well, Mr. Ononuju, in the president's speech yesterday, there was a clause wherein he said that they plan to increase our commitments to peaceful coexistence in a peaceful, secure, and united Nigeria. Do you think this for you demonstrates an initiative or intention to proceed on a different slate moving forward?
No, you had more of the same thing. As you rightly pointed out to the gentleman, these are words. What I want you to see is that he has not stopped his robust use of ethnic cleansing. You saw the suggestions to the Supreme Court appointments. The Southeast have been constantly ethnically cleansed of all federal parastatals and institutions, of the customs, now of the Supreme Court. We look at now in Borno State, let him start to return the ethnically cleansed IDPs back to their ability. Follow Governor Zulu, do the same thing in Plateau State, do the same thing in also what was in Katsina, in Zamfara, in Sokoto, and also in Kaduna State. When you cleanse people ethnically of ancestral lands, cleanse people ethnically of federal institutions, then we know you have an agenda of only trying to put one single ethnicity in there. Let those refugees in those ethnically cleansed villages leave. Let the indigenous people be returned to their communities. That will now show us that this man is serious. It is federal. When he talks about federal control of things like the police force in localities, it simply wants to use federal control of those security agencies to achieve his aim. Why has there been a stay of hands by federal security agencies in all these places where the physical ethnic cleansings occur? This tells you there are instructions from above. So never mind his rhetorics. Look at his actions. I told you before, if you want to predict what a politician will do not listen to his rhetorics, judge from his past. So it is due to the way President Buhari has been applying this steady, robust ethnic cleansing of other Nigerians, of national institutions, federal parastatals, and also of ancestral lands across several sections of the country. That's why the people yesterday say, we are no more interested in Buhari's definition of Nigeria. People are no more interested in Buhari's Nigeria. And I can give you one real assurance. If Buhari does not stop, because people fear he has now accelerated that strategy of ethnic cleansing. Could you imagine this? You cleanse the Igbos of the police. Tomorrow, all the policemen that will come to the Southeast.
To you, part of the president's speech indicated, he says, Nigeria is not a country for Mr. President. Any ruling or opposition party, no, I'll go again. Nigeria is not a country for Mr. President, any ruling or opposition party, but a country for all of us, and we must play our part irrespective of challenges we face to make this country what we desire. To achieve this, we must focus our minds together as a people on ways of resolving the identified critical challenges that underline our present state. Now, he listed the number of those items, one of which he says include evolving a sustainable democratic culture that leaves power in the hands of the people. How would you suggest we go about this?
These are rhetorics. This is classical Buhari way. Rhetorics, but then the actions are different. Remember, he earlier told us, I'm for nobody, I'm for everybody. Then why do you, in your appointments, set to cleanse certain ethnicities of several federal parastatals? This is what is causing this problem. When people are cleansed of the Nigerian project, as represented by the representative appointments, people now feel that they're no more part and parcel of what Buhari is doing. That's why they're saying, If they are being cleansed off the Nigerian project, then they want to now go their own separate ways. So that's why I said Buhari has provided the fuel, the ammunition for all these separatist agitations. No one else. He does it through his actions. Forget the rhetoric. Don't be deceived by his rhetoric. Rhetoric don't mean nothing because we have looked at him. All he said from the beginning, I am for everybody, I'm for nobody. Yet, you see what he's doing. I am happy that he has now taken seriously the crisis in Mali and try to achieve peace, which is what he should have done before,
so
not allowing the influx to put pressure on him.
Well, we know what historians say and their perspective about, how you can see what the man can do moving forward. But having said this on the part of the president now, what would you want to see and how soon in order for you to say again that, well, you said you were going to do this, you didn't do this. So what yardsticks, what are those parameters that you want to see put in place if we can then question that this speech is not what he says it will do?
Then he should start by withdrawing the papers from the customs, withdrawing the papers about the Supreme Court, and then trying to be inclusive in his posting of names that will go to the Supreme Court. Let every part of the country have a sense of belonging. Simple. Withdraw the papers from also the customs and make it in a way that the promotions reflect an inclusive Nigeria. Withdraw all that he has done before, where people have felt that they have been cleansed out of those positions, out of those parastatals, and make a composition that seems to be inclusive all parts of Nigeria. When he starts this, Nigerians will say, it's like this man really wants to do what he says. This is the beginning. It's not to give me rhetorics and you continue to do it. And then join Governor Zulum. I repeat it now, join Governor Zulum to return indigenous people to their ancestral lands in Plateau. Not that they should be inside the IDP camps, whereas refugees from Mali and Central African Republic will be staying in their villages. No, do the same thing in also Kaduna State. This is the reason why our country is about to be lost to us.
Now,
is engineering the breakup of Nigeria.
The economy is a huge part. And we also did ask Laolu Akonde about the economy and what they're doing. He did speak about the economic sustainability plan and several provisions in that particular plan. Well, being an economist yourself, now looking at that plan, how they intend to support MSMEs, families, and those, if they achieve those plans, wouldn't they have begun making certain plans that people will indeed feel the impact and appreciate those?
They have done it before. They have said this kind of things before, and we saw that the monies ended up in private hands. Remember when I complained about the activities of Hush Mommy, and now we are finding monies that were used to buy houses. If you say you're giving money to the economy, you bring money, release it as a way to provide a stimulus to the economy. If you provide the stimulus to the economy, the small enterprises are the people you should give, not giving money to politicians who will now loot it. What they have said right now, my brother, is a template for them to loot further. They have done this thing before, that they gave money to private hands, and we ask, what criteria did you use to give this money to private hands? They say, they were using telephone numbers that have been docile and dormant. I said, good. I have telephone numbers that I have not used. My children have telephone numbers that they've not used for a long time. I have not recharged, but we use them to receive calls. Why don't we get money from that? I go to my village and I ask people, did anybody get money from this government story? They say, we didn't see anything. So this is where you have to follow. Ask yourself, Timberland, in your village, ask if anybody got money from the Buhari's administration. That is how to follow. Don't just listen to their rhetorics. Ask each of you who are anchors there, ask people in your communities, did you get the money? When they didn't get money, ask yourself, are they not Nigerians? So these things are just rhetorics. This is why a lot of Nigerians said, Buhari is not running a government that is inclusive of the aspirations of the broad spectrum of the Nigerian nation. And so, since they, instead of being included in the scheme of things, they see physically that they have been cleansed. They don't want to be part of Buhari's Nigeria anymore.
Just one more thing about the Electoral Act. So many questions and concerns about that particular act and what should be done about it. Do you have any timeline of what you want to see if we need to strengthen our electoral process such that people can indeed go out there and know that, yes, indeed, they can vote and it will count?
The only thing to be done to strengthen the electoral system start with President Buhari's signature, put on the legislature mandated and finished Electoral Act. Let him sign that Electoral Act. The legislatures being politicians, they know the ills of the electoral system because they are direct participants in the elections. They have made suggestions. Let Buhari append his signature on that. That is already before his desk. If he appends his signature, then we will start looking for the new things. The man is not sincere. This is the problem. He's fundamentally not sincere. My party have said this. We supported as a political party that amended Electoral Act. Please, Mr. President, append your signature. He refused. And you can see what we saw in Kogi, where people were now doing election through which is gone. This is the problem. We're talking about elections in Ondo. He's now giving money to the governor so that they can use that money to buy election. This is against the Electoral Act. How can you be saying you want to strengthen the electoral system and then you are sending money for people now to procure votes at the electorate? Because if they had run the economy properly, you will know that you don't need to start doing things like that. If Buhari wants to strengthen the economy, let him refer to the economic advisory team that he has created. Let those people make suggestions because they have people who mean well for the economy. Let their suggestions be listened to.
I guess we'll look out for some of those perspectives or those points in the days ahead. But we do thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We're back in a moment. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. So we turn our attention now to Nigerians, just to get perspectives on now their impression, what they feel about developments. We've got Dr. Urena Onyeuchi, who is a founder of a professionalafrica.com. She joins us via Zoom from the States. We've got Tosin Odesoya, who is the SVP Strategy and Transformation Programs, also joining us from the States, as well as Dr. Ikpemosa Uhumavi, who is a lecturer of law, University of Bolton in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today on the program.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Let me start with you, Dr. Onyeuchi. I mean, yes, is our 60th, and there are different perspectives where people feel about the country. Do they have a sense of belonging, responsibility? Do they feel part of the equation previously, or do they think they will be part of it, or they'll have huge roles to play moving forward? Well, as we commemorate our 60th, our Diamond Jubilee, what strikes you listening and looking at all that is playing out in the country?
I think Nigerians in general are very patriotic and are excited about a future. I think when you were speaking yesterday, you spoke about hope. And so we have those who are in the diaspora, except for COVID. I mean, typically, they go and have parties and, try to be together. So I think that in Nigeria, we still have so many problems that we face and challenges. I know personally, I want to see experts in strategy in different areas of the sectors come together and create change. But I do believe that we're going to have, in the future, as those of us in the diaspora work together with those on the continent, I think that we're going to have an amazing future for Nigeria. So that's my personal perspective.
All right, let me begin also with you, Mr. Odesoya. It's interesting that, we have a huge population of young people, both at home and abroad where you are right now. But then I'm wondering, how do you think they see how do you think they identify with the president's speech? I mean, lofty things said. Of course, a number of things have been criticized, but generally a number of people feel that's very, very inspiring. Would you say, let me just put it to you straight. How do you think that the youths, the young people, relate with that speech? Is this something that you think inspires them?
No, that's a very great question. And again, thanks for having me. I polled, a group of friends or folks within my own network. And I think a lot of them, Nigerians, fell into two camps. The camps of those who are living in Nigeria, it's a very hopeful, message, right? So, and really, quite frankly, they really have, as you think about some of the challenges that Nigeria has, just as we think about just the basics, or from a hierarchy of needs when it comes to water, health, food, electricity, access to Wi-Fi, etc. Right? They've got to be hopeful. If not, there isn't anything to depend on. On the other hand, the second camp of people, really are the folks in the diaspora. Who sometimes you might say, maybe they've been so far removed from Nigeria. Many of us come back quite frequently. But what the sentiment that I get from most of them is perplexed, right? Perplexed at the state of affairs. And I'm not so certain that the message we heard from the president yesterday, while it is one where, it seems to be optimistic, and it's one where folks may want to glean on, at the end of the day, when you think about our history, and it's a repeat of a message we've heard over and over and over again. So there's a new course of action that is needed. And I think some of that is that we need new leaders, younger leaders, who can actually step in to provide fresh perspective, in changing Nigeria and moving Nigeria forward.
Well, getting the young people interested in things, I think, is one of the challenges, or rather, maybe your job. Let me take this to Dr. Umuabe. It's actually your job to talk to young people as a lecturer. And when you talk to them, what kind of sense do you get? Are they confident of a better Nigeria? Are they hopeful, as Mr. Odesen has said, or do you think they're having doubts, Dr. Umuabe?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Channels Television, for having me again. Thanks, colleagues. The idea is this. Nigerians in diaspora are very optimistic people. The students I talk to, colleagues that I converse with on a day-to-day basis are very optimistic of a new Nigeria, particularly viewing the consciousness and the ways in which Nigerians hold themselves out in society, wherever they find themselves. We try our best to be the best that we can be as good ambassadors of Nigeria abroad. But then you look at this whole idea of certain systems not working for us in Nigeria against the optimism that is shared by Nigerians abroad. And you wonder how we can cross this divide, how we can sort of bring these two ideas together to create a uniform piece that will be holistic and coherent for Nigerians to engage with. Now, in terms of yesterday's speech, we actually saw some optimism in the president's speech when he mentioned democratic culture. That reflected the idea of a very good election that happened in Edo State. Many thanks to the government, the government, the president, and the international community that supported. Then the second question of national healing, that very mention of national healing also inspired confidence, because that is the starting point to a new Nigeria. There are very many injustices, entrenched injustices in our system. There are many embedded structural inequalities in our system that needs to be redefined, that needs to be addressed urgently for us to come together as a nation, for this national healing to actually gain function. So that is the starting point in this process. But so far, we are optimistic because we have a country, it's a beautiful country, it's an envy of the whole world. We have an asset in our hands and we must make the best use of it.
I don't know. I'd like you to take on the same question of inclusion of young people, especially the young female Nigerian. Well, generally, it would seem like more and more people are disconnected, so to speak, from what is happening as far as government is concerned. For instance, one of our guests yesterday said, he was shocked at the way people, the young people in particular, paid more attention to a reality show that just ended as opposed to national politics, elections, and stuff like that. And then, of course, the natural question that when that question came to a young person, the person just simply said, it's easier to vote with that kind of reality show as opposed to Nigeria, the elections at the federal or state levels. How do you think we can begin to get the young people interested in the Nigeria that they must lead tomorrow?
That is a very great question.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's actually for Dr. Onyewuchi, Urena Onyewuchi. Yeah.
Okay,
yes, Dr. Onyewuchi, please. That question is for you.
I think not just Nigerians, but I think people in general are very interested in entertainment. It's something that is easily understood. When you start talking about, for instance, I'm in the area of power. Power is kind of boring to most people. Data is becoming more popular. So part of the question is, how do you make some of these areas or these sectors more attractive to young people? I think entertainment's been big for a very long time. For instance, I think a couple of years ago, I used to watch MTV's Sugar, which was trying to highlight what HIV was doing in the country. Now, it's a social topic, but they made it or turned it into an entertainment topic, and that got very attractive for young people. So the question is, how do we start to make different sectors of the economy easier to understand or for young people to assimilate? So I think we have to change the marketing around the different areas or sectors of the economy. And for instance, with regards to green power, if we had a cool show like an MTV show that showed how solar energy saves money, that's going to be something that's going to be attractive to young people. So I think somehow integrating entertainment with the different areas of the economy would help young people be more interested.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to break, but we will be back in just a moment. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, let me get to you, Tosin Odesonya. Speaking about the policies that are being put in place, I know the authorities may tell you, yes, they churn out policies time and again, but we always ask questions about implementation. How do we get it right at that stage? Now, from where you stand, what you've seen different policies implemented where you are as they come up, and then you see them also being actualized. What is it that you've noticed back here or from where you stand that needs to be adjusted in order to ensure that the policies that churn out are actually implemented and people feel that policy and not keep viewing things in that principle of us and them?
Yeah, thanks for the question. As far as it relates to policy, and it's really important to note that when you look at a lot of our government leaders in Nigeria, many of them schooled in UK, in the United States, or in many of the Western countries where they have seen really sound policies that work. But when it really comes down to it, one of the greatest challenge that we have in Nigeria is the accountability around the policies. And we've got a ton of laws, right? We've got a ton of guidelines. But the challenge always boils down to, the implementation of them, the speed. So speed at establishing a new business, speed at starting, at being able to ensure that there is equity and fairness in the distribution of contracts, the ability to protect intellectual property. Those are really, really, really important. But, for me personally, one of the things that I try to anchor on is not to really be dependent, on government. And I kind of touched on this yesterday, that really the power is really in the people, especially as we think about our country in the complex of a global economy, right? The access to power, access to Wi-Fi allows anyone, and there's several use cases of that. In the last segment, you asked, Dr. Onyewuchi, a question around female founders. She's an example of, and she may not brag about herself, but she's a perfect example of a female founder who has founded an online education platform to provide access to everyday Nigerians in order for them to be able to get access to education. And I'll give you another example of a founder actually locally based in Lagos that I met last year. Her name is Ejimonye Ofendu, right? So she's the founder of Fichaya.com, which is a subscription-based cleaning services, and of Fluff Bedding, which is an e-commerce site. Why do I bring this up? The criticality of us having young leaders, right? Not dependent, not spending their time just on social media, but really kind of saying, what are the problems around me and how can I solve for them? Now, on us as government or as leaders in the private sector, how do we equip those youth with the theory or with the hands-on tools, with the capital, with the finances, in order for them to incubate, grow, and scale their business in Nigeria and outside of the country?
Just a quick follow-up on that, Mr. Adesanya. The things you have, the examples you have cited are amazing. But then there are the young people out there who are, for want of a better word, disconnected. The words that the former INEC chairman used yesterday were demoralized and demobilized. They are disconnected from these realities that you are talking about. And the question Chamberlain asked you is about the policies and their execution. Now, essentially, your response is saying, look away from government. But then the policies of government will affect you one way or another. And there is a need for them to be interested and be part of the process of formulating those policies. Don't you think so?
I would agree with you. I think you said it correctly. A lot of folks are jaded, right? And they don't. And the reason why you have, youth and individuals who are perplexed and who may not necessarily see a path is because we do not have really great examples as best practices that we can showcase. So what can the government do? If there are policies that are already established, that are in place, that are working, and they're working successfully, the question becomes, let's leverage the platforms where the youth are. So they are on social media, right? They are on Facebook, Instagram, they are on, and certainly we can use some of our entertainers who I think we all glean and we all enjoy and is given Nigeria some really great press across the country. How do we leverage those individuals where they look up to as examples to showcase the examples that would really inspire hope and that would essentially start to set the bar and standards. And the more of the examples, and really, to be quite honest, the two examples I gave previously, they are so minute. So we need an accelerated effort to really show more of what's possible. And I think that starts to create, a sense of, it starts to get people going.
Well, let me get to Dr. Ohavi on this one. Yesterday, the president appealed to Nigerians to pull together. Yes, he did identify that there are critical challenges that we face, but he thinks that if we pull together, we can indeed surmount some of these challenges. So for you, what would you consider, or what have you identified as some of the huge impediments that stand in our way to achieving this?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think there are several impediments. Apart from the legal impediments, we also have institutional impediments. Apart from the institutional impediments, we have cultural impediments. Then we have a power structure impediment. These are the 4 critical impediments that we have to deal with. First of all, in fact, I'll take them one after the other. In terms of the legal impediments, you look at the Constitution itself. Then you ask yourself, how does this Constitution, the prescription of the Constitution, the constitutional text itself, how does it align with the structural uniqueness of the Nigerian system? You see that there is a disconnect from what the law, the letters of the law says, and the actual unique structure of our system. That disconnect, the gap in that disconnect is being exploited by conflict. That is one problem. The second problem is you have institutional problem. Because the institution requires the law to have its firm footing, the institutions themselves suffer that legal impediment that exists. Then again, you look at the aspect of administration of the institutions themselves. You have issues of funding, you have issues of conflict of interest, issues of corruption flowing in, and you have this cultural element all interwoven into it. And you find that it's difficult for the institutions themselves to function. And the structure of the institutions themselves is also difficult. Then you look at the cultural element. I mean, we touched on issues of culture lately when we look at the culture vis-a-vis the individual subculture vis-a-vis the entire state or national culture, which has no national philosophy to underpin it. So clearly, you find that we must begin to look at the national philosophy, have a vision, then build a culture. That is what happens. Now you find the power structure feeding through this, because you have power structure at different levels of government. You have power structures at different levels of society as well. How can we connect the divergences that exist between the power structures in government and power structures outside the government? These are difficult considerations. Now, these impediments, if I have to go minutely, you'll find the Constitution itself, the provisions of the 1999 Constitution itself, pursuant to the decree, carries with it this taint of being exclusive to a certain class and not reflective of the general wishes of the Nigerian people. So there is this disconnect, there's this lack of psychological contract with the Constitution. That in itself creates a problem because we have a constitution without constitutionalism. Constitutionalism is a product of the people. It is an ideal. It is an ideal that emanates from the bellies, the ideology, the religion, the ethnicity, the power structure, and the cultural disposition of the people. When you have a constitution without constitutionalism, it creates a problem. Now, we have a situation in our country where the institutions themselves that rely on the constitution themselves, there are contradictions within the constitution that make the institutions not function the way they should. These structural impediments provide a basis for us to rethink the way we engage with the law and the society as a whole. There are opportunities here. There are opportunities in the area of reforming this. First of all, we have to go rethink ourselves as Nigerians and say, what do we have to give to the world? What is our philosophy? The US has a philosophy anchored on the Federalist Papers. The United Kingdom has a philosophy anchored on the Magna Carta of 1215. The Germans have a philosophy. After the Second World War, the Germans used the judiciary as a basis to create a cultural consciousness. The French, they have a philosophy of legality. These countries have a culture of legality, which they have framed around these various entities. The US has Congress, the United Kingdom has the House of Parliament, parliamentary supremacy. The Germans use the judiciary. The French, they use the administrative system under a philosophy of legality. What is our philosophy? When we have a philosophy, then we can begin to build. Then the vision will come in. What is our vision? What are we selling to the world?
Yeah, Dr. Marvi, so having seen quite a number of things from that perspective, What do you think that if we leverage on, that could be our own identity to the world?
Great question. What we can sell to the world, first of all, is our identity as Nigerians. How do we sell that identity? If we are Nigerian today, that stand to say, well, we are the giant of Africa, that we are the key human resource anchor of Africa, then we can begin to invest heavily. Every element within the country will begin to work towards creating an educational system that will produce the best IT specialists, the best medical doctors, the best lawyers. If we say today we want to create Nigeria as a hub for international trade, every tribe and region will galvanize. It's natural. These other countries I've mentioned, they have tribes, they have different ethnic groups. But because the philosophy is so convincing, it's so overwhelming, they forget their tribal differences and they all fall in line into a national philosophy. We need a national philosophy in Nigeria. Forget about this tribe, forget about this tongue. When we have a philosophy that is compelling,
Okay.
Nigerians all over the world will fall in line.
Let me ask you, Dr. Onyewuchi. Well, you've listened to Dr. Onwavi, and he's given an idea. For you, Dr. Onyewuchi, what would be the most outstanding identity that Nigeria, in your own opinion, should be pushing for that Nigerian identity that he's talked about?
For one, in the US, Nigerian Americans or Nigerians are known to be the most educated minorities in the country. And so that's already given us an identity, something that we can hold on to. But I think even in terms of the economy or just expertise, I've always said that if Nigeria could stand up and excel in pretty much all the areas that we need to, the Black race around the world would be strengthened. So definitely our identity as being big on education is huge. But I think that we can take it one step further to better identify ourselves in a particular area. Lately, I've found that data engineering has been growing a lot in Nigeria, that there are lots of IT hubs in pretty much almost all the states in the country. And so I'm kind of leaning towards data engineering being a big one. The other thing, obviously, is around entertainment. I think we're the top 3 in entertainment in the world: the US, India, and then Nigeria. So in terms of acting, we are pretty strong in that area. So I think that if we continue to push these areas, but then even higher than that, past entertainment towards professional services, we can excel. But I do know that when the president of the US had said something negative about Nigeria, several anchors in the US spoke up about how educated Nigerians are and how Nigerian doctors, Nigerian engineers, and so on have really helped with building the economy and the country here. So I think we are definitely identifying ourselves or standing out in different areas. Also, you have students in different parts of the world who excel. On LinkedIn, we constantly see, you have this Nigerian student who scored the highest in his class. So I think education is a big one. And that's one of the reasons why I started the company that I started, professionalafrica.com, which is huge on education and knowledge sharing. For instance, we curate webinars. Tomorrow, we're doing a webinar on how foreigners can work in the US, in a US Fortune 500 company. There are lots of Nigerians in the US who are not sure about how to get a job here, especially in this climate. And then you have Nigerians in the country as well who want to come out, leave the country and probably get some expertise outside of the country. So that's one of the things that we're doing. So, really big on education and knowledge sharing across the sector. So we're identifying ourselves definitely in entertainment and in education, I would say.
Well, because it would seem like, anyway, Mr. Odessa already reported you that you are not giving yourself enough credit for what you do, and kudos. But then it will seem like to a lot of people, especially in diaspora perhaps, when we talk about Nigeria, we talk about Nigeria in just one utopia, one intangible entity. So there seems to be a distance between the Nigeria itself, Nigeria as a country, and Nigerians. That's what it would seem. I love Nigeria, but I'm a Nigerian. It would seem that there is some bit of disconnect in the minds of some people, especially those at home. So how do you think we can begin to connect those dots from what you have said?
I think, some of us in the diaspora romanticize Nigeria. We have a view of what we want it to be or what we think it is until we actually, should I say, land in the country and start, trying to work or push for things to succeed. I think we can close the gap a little bit better. I think if young people start to get more into positions of power, I would like to see some of the experts who are in the diaspora be integrated into advisories for government. I think Lagos State government is very strong in bringing in young people that are experts, in the US and around the world. So I think that for instance, most of us in diaspora don't even know how to get involved in anything on the continent, how to write successful proposals. We don't know how to apply to be an advisor to different governments. There are several committees in different states. We're not really sure how to get plugged in. And so, I always look out for the webinars that different people and different companies are doing to see, which ones can teach or better educate those of us in the diaspora how to get involved. So it's a gap that I would love for us to close someday soon. But I think that one of the ways that we can get that plug in is for us to have a better idea of how we can come in and help in the country. Not only, we're starting businesses, but definitely getting more into advisories for the government. That's what I would love to see.
Well, let me also ask the gentleman, according to data published by the CBN, Nigeria receives about $17.5 billion diaspora remittances in 2019. That's huge. Now, how would you suggest, because in line with what Dr. Nyochi has said, what would you want to see, either the way things are done, how you can contribute, advise government and authorities? What do you want to see change or done differently to improve and garner for more some of these experiences from Nigerians in the diaspora? Let me start with you, Tosin.
Yeah, so I'm a very solution-minded person, right? So, and given the work that I do in strategy and transformation, and just putting this back to the comment that was made around cultural identity, right? I think Nigerians, regardless of where you are, in Nigeria or outside of the country, we are known for our bold vision. We dream big. We have a lot of courage, determination. There's a lot of resiliency that exists amongst us. In fact, I would say, at the end of the day, if you look at consistently, Nigerians are thriving and succeeding, especially those of us, who have had who have had opportunities and have been very fortunate in some of the opportunities that have been bestowed upon us. Now, here's the challenge. We are also known for something which I think, is to have a very selfish, if I may say, sometimes. Very, and I don't, not necessarily trying to be negative here, but we don't have a sense of we over me, right? We do not have a sense, and when we have arrived, Nigeria never carry last, right? So when we've arrived, we end up staying in that mindset of arrival without uplifting others. So here are some thoughts, and I certainly will give you an example of some things that in my circle of influence I'm saying. Here in Dallas, Texas, I've got a group of friends, and we have formed an investment club called the Nigerian American Investment Partners, NAPE. One of the key focus of NAPE is how do we address wealth gap, not only of Black, Americans here in the United States, but how do we also address it in Nigeria as well? So it's the infusion of capital, it's mentorship, it is scholarship. It is really about how do we really create opportunities. And the investments and focus that we've had has been in the health sector. It's been around biotech. It's been in technology and even in real estate as well. And my point of giving this example is us in the diaspora or those who are in Nigeria, there's a lot of opulence, a lot of wealth. That wealth needs to be turned around from oppression to how do I enable, to how do I engage, how do I uplift. And I think that is a fundamental change in culture that needs to happen, within the country, within the fabric of all Nigerians across the board. And may I just add accountability from a standpoint of corruption. When that is added, there is no doubt that we will unleash our full potential as a country.
All right, Dr. Harvey, how about you?
Yes, I think I'll first of all say that Nigeria has the longest coastline in West Africa. That is a massive opportunity for business. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people. That is another massive opportunity for investment. Now, in terms of capital coming into Nigeria from abroad, when capital comes in and there is no space for that capital to be functional, it will not work. It will just disappear. It will dissipate. That is natural. But when there is a room created, or when there are rooms created for that capital to find space in a system that is developed to encourage work, hard work, capital will begin to generate more capital. That is the way it works. So first of all, I'm more interested in the structural aspect, because when the structure is faulty, anything goes in, it doesn't stand. When you put something on nothing, it cannot stand. I would want to say, first of all, let's address the issue of our laws, put them in place. Let's address the issue of our institutions, engage with panel of inquiry approach in the reform of our institutions, encourage judicial review culture, introduce this idea of performance bond in the area of institutional reform. Now, in the area of cultural reform, we need a code, a national unity code, which will help us integrate our culture, the culture that we've identified as useful to Nigerians, within the grand scheme of our philosophy, to develop a unique identity for ourselves. Because what we have are individual identities. We don't have a collective identity yet. Very good. We need to start doing that. Then again, we have to look at issues of incentivizing social, incentivizes cultural integration in our country. We must create social incentives as a quid pro quo for cultural integration. We must create hard and soft infrastructure.
Yeah, Dr. Harvey, there are a lot of things that you have listed out that, man, this is sounding like a referendum on its own, and it's amazing. But very quick one for all of you to answer in 10 seconds each. A song by Wole Soyinka wrote the song Ethical Revolution, way time passed, and Tunji Oyelano and the Benders performed it. And it began with, I love my country, I no go lie. For you, let me start with you. Ladies first, Dr. Onyewuchi. What do you most love about Nigeria that you can't give up?
I would have to say the food. I'm a foodie. Every country that I go to, it's, the food is what I love. But Nigerian food, I feel like there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. So if any of the other guys are going to say something, we're going to say food. Sorry, I got that first. But for me, I definitely say the food.
Right. Mr. Odesanya.
There are lots of things. One, our intellect, right? So that is one thing that you, bar none, anywhere we are, we always excel, we always exceed. Our music, right? So we've got a lot of great artists, and when we think about also Nollywood and just really, I mean, there's no one here in the diaspora or anywhere in the world that does not associate.
I asked for just one. I asked for just one, and you're already giving me a plethora. So, well, thank you all the same. Now, Dr. Nwabi, what's the most outstanding thing about Nigeria as far as you're concerned?
The Nigerian spirit. Even in suffering, we keep our heads high. We are optimistic people. That's all.
Way to go. We have to thank you all. What a fantastic one. Dr. Urena Onyeuchi, the founder, aprofessionalafrica.com, Tosin Odesanya, SVP Strategy and Transformation Programs, and then Dr. Igbanwosa Nwabi, lecturer, School of Law, University of Bolton in UK. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your perspectives today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, then. So there you go. What a session it's been. And it's always interesting and always nice. I mean, life, yes, we know life will not always be fair.
Yeah.
But, in spite of the negativity that is out there in the world, the love out there supersedes that negativity. And I think if people try to look at things from a brighter side, you just never can tell.
We've had these fantastic views from Nigerians in diaspora. Amazing. It'll be great also to hear what the Nigerian in Nigeria are saying. One of them we spoke with yesterday, Falls, who said we have to keep hope alive. Is that the general view of every Nigerian at home?
Now, that doesn't mean that they don't identify the challenges.
Oh, certainly.
Of course, there will always be challenges anywhere with anything you turn to. Look on the bright side. Stay away from negative people if you can. Well, that's it today anyway. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day. Coronavirus is still out there. Please be safe.